Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Tim, and this is Second Legacy. And thank you so much for stopping by. Now, in prior episodes and prior different times, you may have seen this guy over here, Tim, on Military Arms Channel, and you may have seen me on Langley Outdoors. But we have come together. We are doing a collaborative channel called Second Legacy because this is focusing on passing the legacy of the Second Amendment along to the next generation. So if you like what you see, help us grow the channel. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn the notification bell on and spread this out because we need as much help as we can. And we thank you so much in advance for your consideration. But what we've got for you today is a hodgepodge of things, all coming from CBS reports. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. The media, anti-gun. Yeah, you're dead on. However, there's a few points in these reports that Tim and I are going to break down that not only fully show what their end goal is, but also ask the questions of why and analyze how it's possible. And that's where it falls apart. So before we get into the clips, Tim, hello, how you doing? What are we going to do today?
Good, man. I'm doing great. So it's great to be here doing another episode of Second Legacy. So today, unfortunately, we have more gun grabbers in the mainstream media out there doing what they do best, and that's ginning up fear and pushing for an agenda. I don't even think that they fully know what they want to do. All they know is they want to pass some form of gun control. But I don't want to put words in their mouths. Let's let them speak for themselves. And we can probably best do that by rolling clip number one.
Since the start of the year, there have been at least 40 shootings in the United States in which 4 or more people have been killed or injured. That is the highest number on record for any January. That's according to the Gun Violence Archive.
Now, Congress took action last year, passing the first major gun safety legislations in 3 decades. But will this recent scourge of shootings put them in action once again? It's a major question folks are asking. Let's bring in...
All right, so... I got to hit one thing, right? This is so important to understand. They have to set the narrative. At the beginning of all these reports, you see something very common. If you unfortunately pay as close attention as Tim and I do on a day-to-day basis, you notice these themes. And one of the themes is always, it's the worst that it's ever been according to Gun Violence Archive. And Gun Violence Archive, also known as GVA, is something that the media will quote, and they will be the baseline to start the conversations around solving the issues that Gun Violence Archive has clearly pointed out. The only problem here is Gun Violence Archive is a biased source. Gun Violence Archive considers any type of violence, any type of crime as a mass shooting. So it doesn't matter what's going on. It doesn't matter if there are 3 people in a car. It doesn't matter if there's gang violence. It doesn't matter if there's drug activity. None of that matters. All that matters is 3 or more people were injured minus the shooter. That is the whole definition. Now, having said that, look at what they said. They built into that, and then they said they passed the most sweeping legislation that's ever been in 30 years. Tim, I know you got some things to say about that part.
It's just mind-boggling to me that the people don't see the hypocrisy in their own statements when the hypocrisy is simply just a few sentences apart from each other. So you have them touting this great legislation, the most sweeping, most comprehensive gun ban or gun legislation in 30 years. But we had another shooting, and so what else can we do? What more laws can we pass? They just got done telling us that they just did this great thing to save Americans, and yet they're going back to the well once again. And this is what we've said many times. They're not happy with any one law. If you could pin these gun grabbers down and say, okay, let's just be frank. Let's just get it all out on the table. We know what you're doing. You're doing this incrementalist approach to banning firearms. Why don't you just come right out and say what you want? Why dance around and say things like sensible gun safety, sensible legislation, reasonable restrictions, all these phrases that they throw out there that mask their true intent, which is just an outright ban and confiscation, because they know that these great gun laws that they're passing have no effect on crime. And we've talked about this in previous videos. Why is that? Well, that's because criminals, by their very nature, break laws. That's what criminals do. That's why we have prisons and law enforcement. Criminals break laws. And so their solution to every problem is the same failed solution, which is, again, the very definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result every time. Pass more laws. We just did this great thing, but let's pass another one because surely the next one's going to get where we want to be. It's just going to magically make people nonviolent. I just don't get it, man. I really don't.
Well, and so I think that's an important piece of why, I mean, we've talked about it offline, why we started the Second Legacy. The whole point here is if we can highlight what they're doing as a collective community, we can say this is clearly what is happening. You're not fooling anyone. We can then drive that to our representatives. And I know some people out there watching this channel will say, well, our representatives don't do anything. I mean, to be quite honest, have you seen recently what's been going on in the House? Chip Roy, Lauren Boebert, Thomas Massie, Van Drew. I mean, have you seen Jim Jordan? All the things that they are doing that are addressing the gun control, honestly, narrative. And it's actually being really effective. We need to reinforce that because we can make that difference. But we just set up a few of the things to kind of lay out what they're doing. Mr. Producer, can we jump over to number 2 and we're going to debunk some more?
There's been a lot of talk about the power of moderates in this particular session of Congress, and you had the opportunity to speak to the bipartisan co-chairs of the House Problem Solvers Caucus. Here's what some of them had to say to you about gun safety.
2 years ago, this exact question on gun safety, right? And guess what? People said there's no way you'd ever be able to sit down and work this out. We passed last Congress, signed into law, common sense gun safety legislation. Is there still more to do? Yes, and that's why I'm working on that with Brian and others as well.
One of my responsibilities is to, make sure that within our conference, I start to have as many conversations as I can, ensuring them that we can have the best of both worlds. We can protect the Second Amendment and still protect community safety, protect our kids, protect our schools. They're not mutually exclusive.
Wow. I mean, where to even start with this one? So we get another catchphrase, gun safety. We passed great common sense gun safety legislation, but that just wasn't enough. So we got to go back to the well again. And my favorite part of that clip is we can protect the Second Amendment and ban guns at the same time. It's this oxymoron, jumbo shrimp. It's them saying two conflicting statements in the same sentence. We're going to protect your Second Amendment rights, but we just ask that you hand them over. We can protect you and due process, but we want to circumvent due process with the red flag law. Due process is too slow. So what we're going to do is protect due process by circumventing due process. Follow me? I should be a politician.
No, you're natural. It's beautiful. Now, that's what you hit on that. So in that clip for me, I legitimately, some of the people while viewing might not know, leave it in the comments field below. But do you know who that second guy talking was on the House Problem Solvers, a moderate? That's Brian Fitzpatrick. He is one of 2 Republicans who voted in favor of the 2022 assault weapons ban in the House underneath Nancy Pelosi. The other one had his bid for Congress revoked because of that vote. He re-won election. He's the only member in the sitting House right now on the Republican side who voted actively for an assault weapons ban, the 2022 HR 1808. That's that guy. In the same breath, he's saying, yeah, no, I know I've done that before, but I'm part of the Problem Solvers Caucus. And we can ban things and we can respect the Second Amendment at the same time. You're speaking with forked tongue. Not to mention his buddy right next to him, who's the Democrat, the whole, problem solver thing. He's the one that's sitting there going, we passed something incredible. No one said it was possible, to Tim's point. But there's more to do. It's always, but there's more to do. It will never be, we solved it. Because you can't solve humanity. The problem is not what's in our hands. The problem is what's in our hearts, in our heads. The problem that we're struggling with is that we have a spike on a 30-year trend of extreme downward momentum on crime, on violent crime specifically. We've covered it in multiple episodes. But for the people who literally in one part of that say, well, yeah, I mean, we did the most amazing thing ever, but we got more to do. Well, that contradicts itself. And then the guy who's saying we can ban guns and respect the Second Amendment is the one who voted and responsible for the assault weapons ban going through the House.
It's mind numbing. It truly is. And I look, we have to get people motivated to be politically active because it's this type of hypocrisy that has to be addressed, has to be brought to the forefront so people can see it. Because true moderates would take a look at what was just said and see the conflicting statements. And you have to ask yourself, okay, so what is your end goal here? You keep talking about all this great legislation you've passed, yet you say you still have more to do. The simple question there is, to what end? Where do you see the line of, okay, we've made it to where we want to be and we don't need to pass any more laws because we have all the laws that we need on the books right now. And the honest answer that they won't say, generally, unless they've been drinking or they think they're, not on a hot mic, their actual answer is ban confiscation. You shouldn't have them. And that's what they're inching towards.
Right. And that next piece, you know what? We don't even need to reiterate, because the clip that we're about to show you is actually about to really back up everything that we're talking about. Mr. Producer, can you hit number 3 and then we will tear it apart?
Would support something new.
Yeah, gun control activists would call it incremental and small ball, but I think some of those who are championing it say, hey, it's change. One of the things that's on the table, I think, according to Senate Democrats with whom I'm speaking, is safe storage laws. Laws passed at the federal level which could incentivize states to pass their own laws requiring storage, locks, keys, codes, something to make guns more restrictive inside an owner's possession, to make them more safe to possess. That's a little bit vague, I recognize, because it's not on paper just yet, but safe storage laws might be some pathway to at least conversation.
It's vague on purpose, Scott. It's vague on purpose.
Yeah. We want safe storage laws because guns are safe when you don't have access to them. So ban them yourself and lock them up and don't have access. We're gonna create a safe environment by making you lock your gun up so you can't touch it. I mean,
right.
It's asinine. And here's the scary part of such proposals. And I want to touch upon the whole thing of safe storage. So I was in Germany for a trade show a few years ago, and I was talking to a German police officer, and we were going through the differences in U.S. gun laws versus German gun laws. And one of the things that stuck out to me was him talking about their safe storage laws. Okay, so they have an entire division within the German police that their job is to go around and literally harass gun owners. Just spot inspections. They can show up at your house at any time and demand to see how your weapons are stored. And then, of course, they can issue criminal punishment if they find that you're not safely storing by state standards your firearms. And so this was in response to a 2009 shooting that took place in Germany. They passed the law, and then that just basically enables the government to walk into your house at any time and take a look around and demand to see where your private property is being stored. Now, my gun's safely stored on my hip right now. No lock. What, am I in violation of a safe storage law because I carry a gun every day? When I wake up in the morning, I put my wallet in my pocket. I put a pocket knife in my pocket, put my keys in there, and my phone, and I put a gun on. Even if I'm staying at home all day, I have a gun on. It's not locked up. Everywhere I go, I have a gun on. So, under German law, there is no such thing as self-defense. That is not justified under any circumstances. So how do these people propose to pass a law like this? Because he doesn't know what it looks like, because it's not on paper yet, because he understands the very nature of it is so complex that the only end result is actually what we just talked about, literally allowing the government to walk into your house and inspect your property anytime. And he knows that will turn people off, so he can't say the quiet part out loud.
Absolutely. That is exactly it. And one of the things, guys, this is one of the main reasons that Tim and I do this channel, is because we're trying to break it into, okay, what's that next step? Because one of the things that gun controllers will do, and you just saw it in this clip, they will go from a very high, lofty goal with no details, with nothing. You can't be upset because I didn't say anything. But common sense gun reform just sounds so nice. Military style weapons sounds very scary. Assault style weapons sounds very scary. Well, what are those things? Well, that doesn't matter. They're scary. Let's keep on saying it over and over and over again until it becomes part of the lexicon, until it's proven that it doesn't exist, and then we'll come up with a different one. But the whole point, even the reporter said the exact word, incremental. The detractors from this approach say, well, this is incremental. It won't do anything quickly. On the gun right side of the argument, we're saying, it's incrementalism, all right. It's broadly, purposely vague, so you don't ask those questions. Let's talk about safety storage laws. Let's talk about mandatory gun locks. Let's talk about keys, codes, fingerprint scans, all to keep it more restrictive. That's what you just heard. The entire point here is when you ask the details, that's where it falls apart, and that's what we have to do. We have to ask the why, the how, and the what, because that's how you defeat these questions, these approaches, by asking them and letting them talk. We did a clip on Governor Gavin Newsom where he literally said the rights don't matter because we have more population. That wouldn't have happened if he didn't keep talking.
Right. It's absolutely ridiculous. And it's fun to see that they actually admitted in that clip to what I've been saying for years. It's this incrementalist approach. They're playing the long game. They know that they have time on their side because they're getting control of the schools. They're getting control of every branch of government. They're getting control of pretty much everything. And they're teaching every generation that guns aren't important. Your rights aren't important. The government's here to help you. Just let us take control. And you just sit back and do what makes you comfortable, happy, and let you have a fun life. And the government will take care of everything else. And it's this utopian craziness that they're trying to sell to people. And they know that if they continue to play this long game, that they're going to bring these up and coming generations along to the point where they're just going to go, yeah, man, I don't really care much about guns. I haven't really ever seen one. I'm not going to fight for something I don't care about. They know that if they play that long game, it's the same long game that the communists have played globally for 50, 60 years. And they're using literally a page right out of Karl Marx's book of how to get something done politically. Do the incrementalism, do it piece by piece, do it so slowly, your proverbial frog in boiling water, slowly turning up the heat. One day you wake up and you realize, oh my gosh, I've just surrendered all of my rights. And that's exactly what they're going for. And he admitted it.
Absolutely did.
Crazy.
But the best part is there are people on our side of this aisle, on people on our side of this fight that recognize it and that are actively fighting and standing up. Every single day, more people join subscription lists on YouTube channels. Every single day, the views continue to increase and increase because there's a thirst for hunger. A thirst and a hunger for freedom. Those are the things that are so crucial. As long as we do not give up, we decide when this fight's over. And I'll tell you, it's when we decide and we hand over our rights willy-nilly and we don't pass it on to the next generation, which is the entire point of this channel. Tim, you want to take us out?
Absolutely, folks. We want to thank you for tuning into The Second Legacy. It means the world to us. Please do like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Let your friends know that we're here. The goal here is for us to give you all the information that you need to go out and have an intelligent conversation with your friends, family, coworkers, and bring them around to our way of thinking, because that's how we win ultimately. That, and please stay politically engaged. It does matter if you contact your politicians, because that's how we've gotten 25 states. Maybe we're up to 26 now. We're waiting, I think, on one more vote, but 25 states with constitutional carry. We have 50 states with some form of concealed carry. That wasn't true 20 years ago. We can make progress, but we can't give up. We can't succumb to defeatism. We have to unite and present a unified front going forward, and we most certainly can accomplish our goals. And our goal is liberty. Thank you for watching, folks, and until the next video, we'll talk to you soon.